Good afternoon. Selamat datang to the workshop on Mexican music and its practical use in contemporary music. My name is Lisette Aceves, and I'm the cultural attaché of the Embassy of Mexico in Indonesia. Today, I will be the moderator. So first, for organization purposes, I kindly request you to mute your microphones. After the presentation, we will have 15 minutes for questions and answers. If during the presentation you want to make a question, I invite you to write in the chat of this session. I will give the floor on a first come, first served basis. Now, the Ambassador of Mexico in Indonesia, Armando Alvarez, will give a welcome message for this event.
Selamat sore, teman-teman. I am pleased to welcome you to this workshop on Mexican music and its practical use in contemporary music. First, allow me to convey my appreciation to the Jakarta Institute of Arts for the enthusiasm in co-hosting this workshop, as well as to all participants for their interest in Mexican music. Also, my gratitude to the renowned Mexican violinist Eduardo Bortolotti for his participation in this event. He wanted to be here in Jakarta for the workshop, but due to the pandemic, we had to make this an online event. Just like Indonesian music, Mexican music has a long history and is extraordinarily rich and varied. The first musical expressions appeared with the aboriginal cultures, such as the Aztecs and Mayas, who developed different kinds of instruments and produced music with a religious and mystical meaning. During the Spanish colonial period came the mixing of native and European rhythm, instruments, and musical culture. Also, during that period, African people brought to Mexico a new richness and variety to local rhythms and music. All these mixtures and influences resulted in what we know today as Mexican traditional music. I am sure that after this workshop, you will have a better understanding and feeling of Mexican music and folklore. I leave you in the good hands of Maestro Eduardo Bortolotti. Terima kasih dan selamat menikmati pertunjukan.
Now I'll give the floor to Gideon Bima Maharesi, Head of Music Department of the Jakarta Institute of Arts.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Lise Aceves. Maybe, sorry if I'm not correct to say your name. At first, I want to say thank you very much for Embassy of Mexico in Indonesia for this opportunity to us, especially for us at music department in Jakarta Institute of the Art. And next, I want to say thank you so much to Mr. Eduardo Bortolotti as a facilitator and speaker today of this workshop. Thank you so much. You have time to sharing your knowledge to us. And then to Ms. Lise Aceves, sorry if I'm saying wrong again, for your cooperation from 2019 we have been made in IKJ, and now planning about today, and here we are today, workshop, and tomorrow have a master class too. I'm very thank you for that, and I'm very sorry too because the situation I'm in coffee shop because actually I want to go home earlier, but you know Jakarta's traffic, yeah, it's been so very heavy, so I just come here and want to see it more clearly. And then for all the participants today, thank you so much for your kindly attention to this event, and have been registered to us, and hope in the other events from the Music IKJ and Embassy of Mexico in Indonesia, we will invite all of you again, and all of you we can join again with us together. Thank you so much, and hope this event and tomorrow too will be going to be perfect. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, please let me introduce you to Eduardo Bortolotti. He studied at the Benemérita Universidad Autónoma de Puebla classic violin, and in 2012 he moved to Poland when he finished his bachelor degree in 2016 and got his master's degree in 2018 in musical education and popular music at the University of Silesia in the Music Institute department. In 2019, he graduated from his second master's degree on jazz violin at the Karol Szymanowski Academy of Music in Poland. Eduardo has played concerts in many countries, such as China, Azerbaijan, Turkey, Cyprus, Poland, Czech Republic, Slovakia, and of course, Mexico. Eduardo has been invited to play several times around the world as a soloist, some of them in collaboration with the embassies of Mexico to represent this country in such places as Beijing, China, Baku, Azerbaijan, and Warsaw, Poland. Now I give the floor to Eduardo Bortolotti, please.
Thank you very much for the invitation. I'm glad to be here. I hope you're listening everything here. Today I want to explain a little bit more about Mexican music, actually with some examples. So I will be showing you some instruments, playing some music, hopefully, if everything goes well. So I will start sharing my screen. So I would just need to ask permission to to the allowance to share my screen, please.
Okay. Listo, a ver si ya puedes compartir la pantalla.
Perfecto. Fine. So I will start showing you a presentation I made for you. And as I said, I will be showing you some examples of what I am talking about. Actually, yes, I've been focusing on Mexican music. And since I'm a composer and jazz violinist, I like to add these folklore elements to my music, to my compositions. So I think it's good to use these elements into contemporary music, and especially some elements, rhythm elements. Actually, today I'm just going to focus on some rhythm elements that maybe you can also use, and maybe you can inspire also to use in your music. So first of all, I would like just to give a brief explanation about the history of Mexican music. I don't know how much maybe you know about Mexico actually, or Mexican music, but I would like just start from the beginning, where, well, actually the musical European tradition, as probably you know, was brought into Mexico around the 15th century thanks to, well, when the Spaniards, Spain came to Mexico with all these European traditions and culture. So together with the discovery of the new continent, there was also like this mix of instruments and arts that were also bringing to the country. But at the same time, in Europe, there were also some developments on these instruments. So actually, it was a really nice period, because not only they discovered another culture, but they were developing all these instruments. So violin was developing, the guitar was developing. Well, there was no guitar by then. So all these plucked and string instruments were spreading more and more. So European musicians brought with them their instruments, and they start to mix with the idea, well, the native musicians or artists start to develop all this playing. So Mexico, as other countries, as also probably in Indonesia, you have we have different kinds of music, types of music, depending on the region, on the site of and location. So an example of these music genres, for example, in Mexico, or at least the genres that I consider probably the most important, are son huasteco and son jarocho. So maybe if you want to write or take a picture of them, because I invite you also to listen to this music. It's very rhythmic and actually very, very interesting. The combination of this dancing, music, and singing. So the idea of son, the word son means actually the whole, the mix of all these three arts, like composing verses, like singing, the music of the instruments, instrumental, and the dancing of the dancers. So all this music influenced. Okay, so talking about the pre-Columbian music in Mexico is in general talking about all this music or arts that were happening before Spain arrived to Mexico, right? So, so it was assumed that Mexican culture or Mexican instruments, they had only a religious and militant character. Mainly the instruments were made of mud, wood, leather, or other natural elements, seeds probably also. These drums or other percussions that they were using as accompaniments to the warriors or to the ritual dances. So when they went into war, they were like hitting these drums to, you know, to show the power. And among them, the most popular drums from this period was the huehuetl and the teponaztli. Um, I don't have a huehuetl because the huehuetl is a really big drum, but actually I have with me a small teponaztli. There are some examples here in the pictures. So I would like to show you a brief performance using these instruments, because I have some ocarinas or flutes from this period. I mean, it's imitation because, you know, this is like ancient instruments. So there are like replicas of those instruments. So I have some flutes, I have, well, these percussions, and I would like just to give a brief performance. So 1 second. By the way, all these things that you see on the picture is what I have down here. So everything will be played and recorded live. And I'm using some loop pedal. So I don't know if you are familiar with this kind of technology, but I will be playing everything here. So 1 second. So So here you can listen to these instruments that by the time they wanted to imitate the sound of the nature of the some birds, frogs, or different animals. And actually, this is a really nice flute because they called it the flute of the dead. And they used to use, well, they were like two use of this flute. Some was to imitate the jaguar sound when they found one in the jungle. But actually, there are some histories that this specific flute or ocarina they were bringing with them when they were going to war. So imagine all the warriors using this sound at the same time. It was like, so you can imagine like the how powerful was that to listen the a bunch of guys using these kinds of sounds and screamings. So well, that's a little bit about the pre-Columbian or Aztec instruments. So like my screen. Okay, so coming back to the idea of Mexican music, we had also some influences, of course, when all this new continent and Spain arrived to the lands of Mexico. So the first Spaniards arrived around 1511, but it wasn't until the full conquest around 1521 when they started to rule in Mexico. Of course, it was new religion, new culture, so it was forbidden to use any of these instruments, any pre-Hispanic instruments, because as you heard, probably for new cultures, it was something completely out of mind. It was something probably, as they call, from the devil. So it was like not good for God. So they wanted to stop using that music. They preferred, probably you already know, like more classical, well-composed music. So, well, there was another fact and thing that influenced in Mexico was also this Afro-American culture that due to the slavery at the time they arrived into Mexico, especially from the Pacific and Gulf of Mexico region, because mainly Spaniards, when they arrived, they used well, all the citizens, Indians, to work as slaves, but in some places they needed to bring also some help, well, from Afro-American culture. So they worked as slaves, and because of that, all those African rhythmic richness and instruments and things that they were bringing with them, as the syncopation, the speed, the feeling, all that stuff was also contributing to the music in Mexico. So it was a nice mixture of cultures. Probably in United States, as you have heard, well, it developed into jazz music, but we have also like our Mexican jazz would be this kind of folklore. Some of those elements that Africans brought with them, or together with Spanish culture, was the idea of bringing animals into Mexico as horses or donkeys. But unfortunately, not all the donkeys had the same luck. So some of them ended as foot or some others as instruments. So what I have is the donkey's yoke. So all this part worked as an instrument. Sorry, I want just to focus. Oh, here it is. So this instrument starts to be part of the culture especially from the Gulf of Mexico, in the music of son jarocho, where I mentioned at the beginning. So it was really interesting because they started to jam with the instruments that they have by the time. So just wanted to, I will give you a better example of them in a moment, but just want to show you which part of Mexico I'm talking about. So just to give a better idea, we are talking about this Veracruz region that, if you're looking to my screen, is from the part of the Gulf of Mexico. The musical genre called son jarocho comes from the state of Veracruz, located in the eastern Mexico on the North American continent. Well, there are, as I mentioned it in the beginning, there are 9 different types of son. The most dynamic music genre that I have developed in this country actually is the son. It combines music, singing, and dancing, as I mentioned. Probably the most well-known kind of son, like the style of music son, probably that you have heard, is the son cubano, because son cubano then evolved into another music, probably to salsa. Then the son cubano is probably the most well-known son, but actually in Mexico it was developed, and we have 9 different kinds of son. So the most common, as I mentioned, it was son jarocho, the first one, and it was even called son mexicano, the Mexican son. An important element of this music is the spontaneous of improvisation. So as I mentioned, it for me, in my opinion, it was our kind of jazz music, because here it was very important to use the improvisation as part of the music. It's very common to use the 6/8 time signature, often found in combination with the 3/4 time signature. So when you combine these 6/8 with 3/4, you have, in result, it gives you a polyrhythm that is well known, well, in Spanish, or from the Latin, it comes from sesquialtero, but in English would be something like hemiola. And then you have all this mix of 2 rhythms. So as here you can see in the example, you can have like, I mean, I don't know if all of you are musicians or which kind of instruments do you play, but in general, if we are talking about 6/8, we have like 3/3. So takata, 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 or the combination of the 3/4 that we will have. Taka, 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 taka. So it's very common that in these groups or these bands, folklore bands, the guitar, which is called jarana, I will show you in a moment, the guitar used to play on 6/8, where when the bass is playing on 3/4, so it gives the pa 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 pa, and the guitar the 6/8, or the quijada de burro, the donkey's yowl, is also using comping with both rhythms. So the instruments used for the performance of some jarocho music is mainly belong to the family of chordophones, mainly plucked as guitars. Some of these instruments are the jarana, requinto, leona, which is kind of a bass guitar, the quijada de burro, which is the donkey's jaw, and tarima. Burro.
Tarima. Burro. Tarima.
Exactly. And tarima is a place the dancer it's like step dancing. So I would like to give you an example right now. And due to the lack of time, actually, I think we are going to keep here this. Just 1 second, I need to prepare here. And well, here I have the guitar, which is a jarana. And as you see, it's not the common jarana. It's not the common guitar. It developed from the first projects of the Baroque guitar. So as I mentioned, when they arrived to Mexico, they arrived with some similar guitars from the Baroque period. And they just developed and changed to because they weren't rich, right? Only the rich people were able to bring instruments, to buy instruments. So the natives started to build their own instruments in bass or from the examples that they were showing to them. So that's how the jarana also evolved.
Ding, 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 ding.
I will use one rhythm here, which will be, as I mentioned, in 6/8. So here I just wanted to give you the example of how can the rhythm is going like on 6/8 and the harana sometimes is changing between 6/8 or 3. So from that example, just give me a second. I will just erase this. Hi. So, uh, actually, that was my arrangement of Cascabel. Cascabel is a traditional song, but as you may have noticed, I have added some contemporary elements as the electric violin. Mainly, I was trying to use these rhythms that I was mentioning before. So, because the idea of this workshop also is not only to encourage you to listen or only to learn Mexican music, but also in general to use some folk elements that maybe you feel more comfortable about. But this Mexican music, as I mentioned, it has um, this stuff. It's actually a very good thing to consider about use when and triplets can turn into duplets or uh, all the time thinking about triplets, but then I'm just changing the accent of this takati 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 takati. Well, while improvising or composing or improvise, well, some solo. It's maybe like a brief summary what just to encourage you. And now actually we're short of time, but I would like, I've seen that the chat, I've seen that you question. Right. I would like just to encourage you to ask something. I hope you are enjoying. Oh, thanks for performing very much. Maybe let me invite you to ask something. I mean, if you to talk. Is it the time? Well, it's the time to ask probably. I don't know. We're Hi.
Hello, Eduardo. Thank you very much for your presentations, music presentations. It was wonderful.
Thank you.
I thought you just play, but incredible. You play much of instrument, right? One of your got my attentions. I have to quick to the pure the instrument from donkey or just rip. Yeah,
Yes, the donkey, the donkey.
the donkey. Yeah. So the second question is the pure for donkey? Yeah, thank you very much.
Yes. Actually, that's a common question. I encouraged to use instrument. I just got it because I used to play in a folklore band in Mexico, folklore. So in this tradition, is common to probably between friends just find them, because it's also not so easy to get this instrument, because it's not just the bones of the donkey. I mean, this is a true donkey's young, so it was a real animal, unfortunately. But in general, the art or the interesting part is that, as you see, the teeth, they are not falling down. They are like just vibrating. So it's a quite complicated procedure, I think, to get it, because I just know the theory about how to do it, because they need to put it underground for some period, but it's not quite easy. So it's not that you can go and buy on the market a young donkey's young. But yes, this is an original. I brought it first like 8 years ago to Poland. I'm calling you from Poland. So it was in my suitcase. Probably nowadays is not allowed, but by the time I didn't have problems. So I'm just taking care of it, because of course, probably it would be really, really hard to get another one.
It must be expensive right now. Thank you very much.
No, thanks to you for asking. Another question.
I do.
Hi.
Okay, hi. So yeah, first a bit of compliment. It was a really, really great performance. I kind of enjoy it.
Thank you.
And my question is about the Mexican music. I mean, previously you mentioned some several instruments that are commonly used for Mexican music, right? I kind of curious. Do you guys in Mexican music have names for several scales or modes that you're using alongside of the Western scales that we are having, or you're just using the Western scale that we know currently? Thank you.
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, well, we use the Western, I mean, like the traditional scale. And harmonies, but because of the tempered instruments, because we have, as I mentioned, when Spaniards arrived with their Baroque guitars, it was already, they were already developing or they were already tempered. So we are just playing mainly on major, minor scales, harmonic minor, especially on the sevenths, yeah. And maybe that's a little bit of the influence also from the Spanish music. Actually, the main part from Spain that influenced in Mexican music, it was from Andalusia, and all this Spanish flamenco kind of stuff. Somehow also influenced in Mexico. They were writing from this part. So maybe that's actually the reason, because from the other flutes that I mentioned at the beginning, they are not tempered, they are not in tune. So you have like completely different scales, but they don't really write music to these instruments. Here you have a semitone, but it's not like. Well, that's one of the flutes, but then you have, as I mentioned,
It's not like you're using the basic, the standard Western scale, right, when you're having such pitch.
Exactly.
Right. Okay.
Well, what I try to use in my music is that I tend to use the harmony that it fits also with these notes. So I'm just like taking part of it and making more, some jazzy chords to fit all of those notes inside, even if they are not from the same scale.
I see. Thank you. That really helps. Thank you so much.
No, thanks to you. Do we have another question here? I see the Mexican flag around there.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, of course.
This is kind of a personal question, but how and when did you start going into like the history of like Mexican music?
Again, sorry, when did I start to what?
Start to like get into the art of the history of music and also we're talking about Mexican music, right?
Yes, actually I started to, I was very curious to learn more about this music, probably after getting into a folklore band, because I was more like a classical trained violinist. Then I started to play with this folk band, with all the dancers. They were dancing and we were the musicians of the group. And mainly, most of them were just traditional musicians. I was maybe the only one from the school. So for me, it was interesting that they, even when they were just learning, like another method of learning. So for me, it was interesting. Then the instruments. Then when I went abroad to focus on jazz and started to compose, maybe being abroad also Mexico started to give me more curiosity about learning more about it. So I just even wrote my thesis about how to teach music using some Mexican songs or Mexican music, or how to add some of these elements in contemporary music, also in jazz. So I just started like 10 years ago to focus on that. But yeah, so maybe we can say like around 10 years ago.
Right, thank you.
Okay, another question.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I wonder how you can manage between the folk instrument and the Western instrument for your composition. For example, in the recording session, yeah. Beside the using the harmonic tones of the traditional instrument, yeah. Did you use do you use also the special tune for the Western musical? Because my band is also kind of band mix between the Western instrument and the traditional instrument, but I usually
I see.
use four 432 tuning, 432 hertz tuning, then 440. Are you using
Okay.
the, what kind of method when you combine, beside using the uh, jazzy chord and also the harmonic tune of the instrument? Okay.
Yes, the tuning, I use the traditional 440, 442. Sorry, there is some noise around there. Okay, I use only this traditional standard tuning. As I mentioned, it depends on the flute where what I am using, because they have different intonations or different notes. Here with me today, I have this one, but I have some others around there actually, and each of them have different tunings. So depending on which piece and what I'm going to, I use the harmony or the tonality. So maybe let me give you a brief example actually. Sorry. Okay, so just we're actually out of time, but since I am calm and maybe can I? harmonies there. So here actually I'm just increasing the harmony because of the notes of the flutes. So I just started with a very basic, just like fifths, and then you can build all the chord using some of those notes, and then have fun playing. Well, actually, I wasn't quite prepared to give an example of those harmony because of the flutes, but that's I think my approach to the topic. Hopefully, I helped with that. But I would be really I would really like to listen also to your music that you're saying that you combine also these Indonesian rhythms. So it would be really nice also to hear that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Eduardo. Okay.
So I think I will need to end also today's conversation and meeting. But I'm really glad that there are many of you today with me and we are all here together. It would be really great to see you one day in Jakarta. I would prepare more material, more of this stuff. So it would be nice to see you in real life. It's good to have this opportunity to chat, even when we are really far away, but it would be really nice to see you and meet you, all of you, one day in person.
Eduardo,
See, yes.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I think that it was very interesting, and as you saw, all the participants were very eager to ask you several questions. It was a great opportunity to bring to Indonesia a little bit of Mexican music. So thank you very much indeed for your presentation, for your enthusiasm, and we are very happy. And as you have said, we hope to see you when the things get better here in Jakarta. We will be more than glad to have you here. And what I want to tell everyone is that we recorded this session, so that means that next week you will have the opportunity to see the presentation again, just in case that you missed something or you want to learn a little bit more. So for our part is more than enough with this. We do really appreciate everyone for your attendance to this event. And I don't know if the persons of the Institute have another thing to say, a word. Pa Gideon? I think
yes,
that
yes, of course. Yeah, yeah. I would like to say thank you very much, Mr. Eduardo Bortolotto, and for the Miss Lize and Embassy of Mexican in Indonesia for this very great opportunity for us. And for the participant, I want to say thank you once again. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. So the session is finished. Thank you very much to everyone for everything.
Thank you.
See you next
Thank
time.
you very much, and see you next time. Thanks for the invitation, and
Thank you for everything, Eduardo.
Yeah, thank you.